The night everything changed. The city never sleeps, they say, but some people do not even get the chance to lie down. Aisha did, on a cold, wet sidewalk. Her thin shawl barely protected her from the biting January wind. Plastic bags were her pillow, trash cans her walls, and broken dreams her only company. She had been invisible for years, ignored by strangers, avoided by friends, forgotten by a world that moved too fast to notice pain. Across the street, Daniel counted the last coins in his pocket. $3. 4 coins. Not enough for dinner. Not enough for hope. He was alone with a family behind him, memories that seemed like luxuries now. The unemployment notice crumpled in his bag reminded him every second. Life was cruel. Neither of them asked to be here. Neither of them expected to meet another soul in the middle of despair. But sometimes, fate is quiet. It waits in the shadows and steps in when you least expect it. That night, one small act of kindness, done when neither had anything to give, would change both of their lives forever. 2 broken lives. The street smelled of wet concrete and burnt coffee. Cars honked impatiently, but Aisha did not hear them. She was curled into herself, shivering. Her stomach growled. She had not eaten since the morning, and the morning had been cold and harsh. Her shoes were worn through. Rainwater seeped into her socks. Her fingers, stiff with cold, refused to obey. She had not always been this way. Once, she had a tiny apartment and a job that paid just enough. She remembered the laughter of her parents and the warmth of her home. But life had been cruel. Hospital bills, betrayals, a string of misfortunes that left her alone, without family, without support. Now, the street was all she had. A loud cough echoed nearby. She lifted her head and saw him, a young man, sitting on the steps of a closed cafe, hunched over his pocket coins, staring at them as if they might suddenly multiply. Daniel had once been like everyone else, busy, certain, confident. Now, uncertainty had taken everything. Rent unpaid, meals skipped, job prospects vanished. He could feel himself slipping toward the same fate as hers. For a moment, he hesitated. He could look away, pretend she did not exist. Most people would, but something stopped him. Perhaps it was the look in her eyes, a mix of fear, hunger, and defiance. She was small, fragile, but she refused to break completely. Daniel's own stomach growled. He had one sandwich left, one bottle of water, one chance to make a decision. He did not know her. She did not know him. And yet, a quiet voice inside told him, "Do something." He stood, unsure, but drawn by a force neither could explain. He crossed the street, each step heavier than the last. Aisha noticed him coming. Her first instinct was fear. Who is he? Is he going to hurt me? But when he stopped in front of her, he did not speak harshly. He did not demand anything. He simply extended his hand, offering the only thing he had. "Here," he said, voice low, almost hesitant. "It's not much, but maybe it'll help." In his hand was a small paper bag. Inside, a sandwich, a few coins, and a bottle of water. Aisha stared. Her throat tightened. She had not heard a kind word in weeks. She shook her head, ashamed. I can't take this." Daniel smiled faintly, almost sadly. "I have enough for me," he said, "and maybe enough to help someone else, just tonight." For a moment, the city faded. The traffic, the noise, the hunger, the cold, it all disappeared. 2 broken lives meeting on a street corner, each with nothing, yet somehow finding the courage to give. Aisha took the sandwich with trembling hands. She looked up at him. For the first time that night, she smiled, not because the sandwich filled her stomach, but because someone saw her, really saw her. Daniel turned to leave, but neither of them noticed the small figure watching from the shadows. A homeless dog, thin and shivering, wagged its tail nervously, as if approving of the act. Little did they know, this single choice, this fleeting moment, would be the first step toward rewriting their destinies. The last coin in a difficult choice. Daniel walked away slowly, leaving the small paper bag at Aisha's feet. The cold wind nipped at his face, but it could not touch the warmth that lingered in his chest. He had given the last of his money, the last sandwich, the last coin, and yet he did not regret it. But reality hit him as soon as he stepped onto the cracked pavement. What had I just done? His stomach rumbled. He had nothing left for himself tonight. No dinner, no water, no hope of comfort. He sighed, sitting on the steps again, leaning his head against the cafe door. The city lights flickered, mirroring his uncertainty. Meanwhile, Aisha unwrapped the sandwich slowly, as if she were afraid it would disappear as she hurried. Her hands trembled, not from cold this time, but from the shock of being treated like a human being. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. Her voice was hoarse from the night wind. Daniel looked at her and shrugged. No thanks needed, he said softly. Just eat. Stay warm. Her eyes welled with tears. She had survived countless nights on the streets, ignored by everyone, humiliated by strangers. And here was someone who barely had enough for himself, offering kindness without expectation. She took a bite, and then another. Each mouthful felt like a miracle. The night stretched on. Traffic passed, muffled by distance. A stray cat wandered close, sniffing the air, then darted away. The world was harsh and indifferent, but in that small corner of the city, there was warmth. There was compassion. There was hope. Daniel finally spoke, voice low, almost a whisper. What's your story? Aisha hesitated. Trust did not come easily when you were invisible for so long. But something in Daniel's tired eyes told her he understood struggle. So she began. My parents, they're gone, she said, voice cracking. I lost my job, then my apartment, then everything. She swallowed hard, trying to hold back tears. I've been on the streets for months. Nobody cares. People just walk past me like I'm air. Daniel listened. He had faced loss too, though different. The crushing weight of bills, rejection, and despair. And now, somehow, he felt connected to her story. I know what it's like, he admitted. I lost my job a few months ago, rent's overdue. I don't even have money for a proper meal tonight. Aisha looked at him, stunned. You help me when you have nothing? Daniel shrugged again, but there was a faint smile. I don't know why, he said. I just thought maybe if someone helped me once, I'd want to do the same for someone else. Aisha studied him. Most people would ignore me, she said. Walk past, pretend I don't exist. And that's why you're different, she said softly, almost to herself. The night grew colder. Daniel shivered, wishing he had a coat to offer her. Aisha hugged her thin shawl tighter around her. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Not awkward, just heavy with the weight of shared misery. Then Daniel made a decision. It was a small decision, but a brave one. He reached into his pocket and found nothing. Not a coin, not a dollar. But he reached into the small bag he carried, hidden under his jacket, and pulled out an old, worn notebook. It's not much, he said, offering it to her. But it's mine. Maybe you can use it. Or maybe it can help you in some way. Aisha took the notebook carefully. Inside, she found scribbles of ideas, reminders, sketches, someone's thoughts and dreams. It was odd, but somehow it felt like a gift from the universe. You trust me? She asked, incredulous. Daniel smiled faintly. In a world where no one trusts anyone, sometimes you have to take a chance. And so, two broken souls sat there under the flickering streetlight, sharing warmth and stories, connected by something more valuable than money. For the first time in months, Aisha felt seen. For the first time in months, Daniel felt useful. Neither of them realized that their meeting was the beginning of something far bigger than a sandwich or a notebook. It was the beginning of hope. Little did they know, the night was far from over, and the choices they made in the coming hours would test their courage, their compassion, and the very limits of their humanity. Secrets, struggles, and a growing bond. The city never seemed quieter than it did in that corner that night. Cars blurred past like streaks of light, indifferent to the two figures huddled under the flickering street lamp. Aisha clutched the old notebook Daniel had given her. It wasn't much, but it was a lifeline, something tangible to hold on to, a reminder that someone, somewhere, still believed she mattered. She hesitated. For weeks, she had built walls around herself, walls that protected her from disappointment, betrayal, and cruelty, walls that kept her invisible. But Daniel, he was patient. He didn't rush. He didn't judge. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft, trembling with vulnerability. I haven't told anyone everything. Daniel nodded, silently urging her to continue. My little brother, he's sick, she admitted, eyes welling with tears. I had money saved, just enough for him to get treatment. But the hospital bills, they swallowed it all. Then I lost my apartment, my job, everything. I thought maybe I could survive alone. But I can't. Daniel's heart sank. He had faced his own struggles, but hearing hers made the weight of reality undeniable. You should not have to survive alone, he said softly. No one should. Aisha looked down, ashamed. I can't even ask for help. I don't know how. Daniel reached into his coat again, though he had very little to offer. I don't have much, he admitted, but maybe together we can figure something out. She looked up at him. Hope flickered in her eyes, the kind of hope she hadn't felt in months. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a world where someone cared. The night deepened. The streets grew emptier, but the bond between them grew stronger. Daniel shared his own story, how he had worked tirelessly for years, supporting his family, paying his bills, dreaming of stability, until layoffs, debt, and bad luck left him on the edge of ruin. You think life is fair, he said, shaking his head. Then something happens, and suddenly nothing makes sense. Aisha nodded. I know. That's exactly how it feels. They laughed softly, an almost nervous sound, fragile but real. Laughter that hadn't touched Aisha's lips in months. Laughter that reminded Daniel of better days. And then, without warning, reality struck. Aisha's stomach growled. Daniel's stomach growled. They looked at each other, both aware that tonight hunger wasn't just hers, it was his too. I have a few coins left, Daniel admitted. Maybe we can find something small just to get us through the night. Aisha shook her head. It's not your fault. You've already helped me so much. Daniel smiled faintly. I know, but we can share what we have, even if it's just a little. And so, they ventured together into the cold night, moving quietly through the city streets, searching for scraps of food, warmth, or mercy. As they walked, Aisha noticed something that made her pause. A small group of people had gathered near an alley. They were laughing, talking, eating. The smell of hot food drifted toward them. Her eyes widened. It was a soup kitchen. Daniel noticed her expression. We can try there, he said. Maybe they have enough for both of us. They joined the line, keeping distance, ashamed but desperate. And when the volunteers offered them plates of steaming food, Aisha's hands trembled. She had not eaten like this in months. Daniel watched her, smiling faintly. In that moment, he realized something profound. Helping someone didn't make him weaker. It reminded him of the strength he still had inside. Aisha took a deep breath, savoring the warmth of the food. And then, quietly, she said, Thank you for everything. I don't know how to repay you. Daniel shook his head. You don't have to. Just live. That's enough. But the night was far from over. For as they ate, a shadow watched them from the corner of the street. A figure in a long coat, noticing the unusual pair. Someone who would soon change the course of their story in ways neither of them could imagine. Little did Aisha and Daniel know, this night, their first real night together, was only the beginning of a journey that would test everything they believed about kindness, trust, and hope. The test of kindness. The next morning, the city woke up to noise, traffic, and indifference. But Aisha and Daniel were still together, sharing warmth in a small corner near a park bench. The soup kitchen had filled their stomachs, but hunger was not the only thing weighing on them. Life was waiting outside with its sharp edges. Aisha looked at Daniel nervously. I should find a place to stay. Maybe a shelter, she said quietly. But I don't even know if I'll have enough money for tomorrow. Daniel sighed. He had no answers, no solutions, only hope and a desire to help. Then we'll figure it out together, he said, step by step. But the world has a way of testing even the kindest hearts. As they walked toward a nearby shelter, a group of young men loitering on the street noticed them. One of them shoved Aisha roughly. "Hey, watch where you're going," he sneered. Aisha stumbled, clutching her thin shawl, eyes wide with fear. Daniel stepped in immediately. "Leave her alone," he said firmly, though his voice wavered slightly. The young man laughed. "And who are you going to stop us? Broke boy?" Daniel's stomach knotted. He had nothing to fight with. No money, no protection. Yet he stood his ground. Aisha whispered, trembling, Please, don't get hurt." Daniel looked at her and then at the group. In that moment, he realized something. Kindness did not make you weak. Courage did, even when you had nothing. Standing up for someone mattered. The young men sneered, but a passerby, a middle-aged woman with concerned look, noticed. "Hey, leave them alone," she shouted. Startled, the group scattered, muttering under their breath. Aisha's hand shook. Daniel took her hand gently. "You're safe," he said softly. "Someone sees us. Someone cares." But danger was not over. Later that afternoon, as they arrived at the shelter, Aisha's secret caught up with her. The shelter manager looked at her suspiciously. "Do you have identification?" he asked sharply. Aisha froze. She had none. All her documents had been lost months ago, stolen, burned, or left behind in her old apartment. She couldn't prove who she was. Daniel stepped forward. "She's with me," he said firmly. "I know her. She's safe. Please, just let her stay tonight." The manager hesitated. Rules were rules. But Daniel's eyes, tired but determined, held something the manager could not ignore. Finally, he nodded reluctantly. "Fine, just for tonight." Aisha exhaled shakily. She hugged Daniel tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Daniel smiled faintly. "You don't need to know," he said. "You just need to survive. That's enough." That night, as they lay in the shelter, safe in the cold, Aisha and Daniel talked quietly. "Why do you keep helping me?" Aisha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel thought for a long moment. "Because someone helped me once," he said, "and I promised myself I wouldn't let kindness end with me." Aisha's eyes glistened. "And if I fail, if everything falls apart again?" Daniel shook his head. "Then we get back up. Together. There's nothing to fear when you're not alone." They fell asleep side by side, exhausted but strangely hopeful. Two broken lives, tied together by one act of kindness, now braced for whatever the world would throw next. But fate had one more test waiting. The following morning, a Moan approached the shelter. He wore a sharp suit, expensive shoes, and an expression that radiated authority. Aisha froze. Daniel instinctively stepped in front of her. "You," the Moan said, pointing at Aisha. "You were at my property last night. Did you take something?" Aisha shook her head. "No, I didn't." The Moan glared. Daniel's heart pounded. This was the moment that could undo everything. The moment where a single misunderstanding could crush their fragile hope. And in that moment, both Aisha and Daniel realized. Kindness was not just about giving. It was about trusting that, even when the world tests you, your heart will guide you to do the right thing. The ending that changed everything. Aisha froze, her heart pounding. The man in the sharp suit was towering over them, anger etched into every line of his face. Daniel stepped in front of her instinctively. "This is a mistake," he said calmly. "She didn't take anything. She's just trying to survive." The man narrowed his eyes. "I don't believe you. Last night, someone was on my property. Someone took something. You two were near it." Aisha swallowed hard. She didn't know what to say. Fear gripped her like ice. All the nights on the streets, all the hunger, all the shame, it had led to this. But Daniel didn't flinch. I know her, he said. She's honest. She hasn't harmed anyone. If you take her away, you're punishing the wrong person. The moon paused, studying Daniel's tired but determined face. There was something in it, a quiet courage, a steadfast belief in doing the right thing that made him hesitate. And then something remarkable happened. A woman emerged from the shelter staff. She's been staying here all night, the woman said firmly. She hasn't caused any trouble. In fact, she's one of the most polite and kind residents we've had. The suited man's expression softened slightly. He looked at Aisha, who stood trembling but upright. Finally, he spoke. Perhaps. I was too quick to judge. Aisha exhaled slowly, relief flooding through her. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. The night of fear and uncertainty had ended. The next few days passed with quiet miracles. The shelter staff helped Aisha contact distant relatives who hadn't known she was missing. She found a small job nearby, enough to keep her sheltered and fed. Daniel found a temporary position helping with deliveries for the shelter. Neither of them were rich. Neither of them had luxury. But they had something far more valuable: stability, friendship, and hope. One evening, as they walked through the park, Aisha looked at Daniel with tears in her eyes. You know, if you hadn't stopped to help me that night. She couldn't finish the sentence. The weight of gratitude was too heavy. Daniel shook his head. I didn't do it for thanks, he said softly. I did it because someone has to care, even when you think no one does. Aisha smiled through her tears. I guess kindness really does matter. And Daniel nodded. Yes, even the smallest act, the simplest choice, can change a life, and sometimes it changes two lives at once. Moral of the story: life will often test you. Hunger, fear, poverty, and despair may surround you. But kindness, true, selfless kindness, never goes unnoticed. Even when you have nothing to give, offering hope, compassion, or courage can change someone's life, and in the process, change your own. Because humanity is measured not by wealth, power, or status, but by the heart you carry, the courage to stand for others, and the willingness to help, even when the world ignores you. Aisha's life was saved not by fortune, but by the heart of one who believed in her. Daniel's spirit was restored not by luck, but by giving selflessly. And together, they proved a simple truth. One act of kindness, no matter how small, can rewrite destinies.